Hey, you don't want to miss this episode. We're going to continue our review of Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash, and we're going to talk about capitalizing your system and implementation. What are the steps you need to know? Hi, everyone. Welcome to Control and Compound. I'm Darren Mitchell, and joining me as always, Christina Wyatt. Christina, how you doing today?
Hey, Darren, I am doing great. How are you doing today?
I am doing awesome. I got my Nelson Nash book out here. We're going to dig into the next part of our ongoing series on that. So pretty excited to talk about Nelson today.
Yep, I'm excited to dive in. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, please make sure you subscribe and leave that 5-star review. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you always know when new content is coming out. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Control and Compound on Instagram and TikTok.
Cool. Okay, so we're gonna dig into the Nelson Nash book, Becoming Your Own Banker. I think it's page 65 is sort of where the review starts today, and we're going to talk about capital, and we're going to talk about the need to store your capital somewhere and where to save your capital, and then how that leads into implementing the infinite banking concept into your financial world, either personally or corporately. Right? We can do these policies personally, or we can do these policies corporately, or like you and I, we can do both, right? We have personal policies and corporate policies. So yeah, let's get into it, Christina.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know when we're looking at the book, the Becoming Your Own Banker book, we're really just referring to one page today, page 65, the capitalizing and implementation of your banking system. But there's so much more than just this page. So we're going to dig in a little bit more and kind of, give our insights on how we think about it and then bring it back to the book as well. So I think what's important and what we should be talking about is digging into capitalizing our systems, right? So, capitalizing is the most crucial aspect of financial planning. So I think we should kind of start there and dig into it a bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, I spent a lot of time studying the wealthy and figuring out what they do differently than other people. And I think this is one of the key areas that just sticks with me is the way wealthy people look at accumulating capital and storing capital is different than the way the rest of us tend to look at that aren't in the know. A couple of years ago, I was down at the Nelson Nash Institute's think tank, and we had Ryan Griggs present to us. Ryan's American, super smart guy. I think he's PhD. He's like crazy level smart, right? Some presentations he goes and like 3/4 of the room was going, "Whoo, I think that was good, but man, that was like some high level stuff." This guy's like super smart. But he did a presentation on capitalizing your system, and it was just incredible. So some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today, I borrowed from Ryan. I don't have a PhD, but we'll try to dumb it down for us non-PhD so we can understand it. But that's really where wealthy people differ than people that aren't wealthy is how they treat their capital and how the importance they put on the capital and what they do with it.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So I think that's exactly where we should start, right? The importance of capital, the role of capital in our financial planning, and really how we have control of that capital. Like I think it really does come down to that because it's going to shape our economic outcomes at the end of the day with what happens. So let's kind of start from the bottom and work our way up.
Yeah. So let's talk about capital. Let's talk about money, right? Let's talk about capital and say, okay, so I could run out and I could try to build a house, and maybe 5 years in, I might get some of the walls up or something, but that's not an efficient way for me to get that house. The other way I can do it is I can transfer capital or transfer money to someone and have it built in 3 months. I have no idea how to build a car, but I can transfer capital to get that car. If I'm a business owner and I need machinery to run my business and make it profitable, well, I can't build that machinery, but I can transfer capital to get that machinery to hopefully make my company millions of dollars. So like the economic output is the importance of that economic output all comes back to the capital and the emphasis on having control of that capital to deploy to get those assets that you need. And where traditional financial planning focuses solely is on investing, right? And they never look at where to store your capital, they look right really to step two instantly and say, where do we invest that money? Okay. So when we look at where to store capital or accumulate capital, we got to look at leverage, capital, maintaining control. And we're going to dig into all these. But for me, control of capital is the key to this. And this is what the wealthy are focused on. As well, it's like the Nelson Nash quote on the golden rule, right? He who has the gold makes the rules. He who controls the capital gets to set the rules. So wealthy people want to control the gold or the capital in order to make the rules. So that's what we're going to dig into.
Yeah, so it's definitely different than the investing side. When we look at investing, we're really giving up control of our money to try to make that return. We're not really keeping that control. So why is the infinite banking concept different than this? How are we keeping that control? How is it different than investing? Because we always say it all the time, right? We're not looking at investing. We're looking at saving. We're setting up that base of our savings, getting that control in place. So how does it differ? Like, in your opinion, how does the infinite banking concept differ from traditional investing?
Yeah. So if you think of capital or money, and you go, okay, so what are the two ways to deploy capital? And there's really two ways to deploy capital. Number one, you liquidate it, right? You've got 100,000 in your bank account. You need to buy something. You liquidate that. And the second way to deploy capital is to leverage it, right? And that's where the wealthy want, right? It's like you own an asset and you leverage that. And now you have two assets. You have the asset you leverage that's still hopefully growing, and you have the new asset. So those are really the two ways to deploy capital. You either liquidate it or you leverage it. And wealthy people are definitely on the leverage it side because they know the importance of having more than one asset.
Exactly. The two assets instead of one, right? We talk about this all the time. Do you want an and asset or do you want an or asset? Those or assets are, do I put money in the stock market or real estate or crypto? All comes down to that or. Whereas when you have the ability to put an and asset in place, you get the option of both, right? You can have that asset and that real estate. You can leverage it. So definitely better to have the and. I fully agree with the wealthy on this one. The leveraging's the way to go.
Yeah, but when we talk about that leveraging, there's many concerns and issues with the leveraging, right? It's like, what about the costs? What about the admin fees and just the pain in the butt administration, the hoops you need to go through, the financial like underwriting they make you go through, like you literally. It's like you have to give up your first child as collateral for some of these loans sometimes with these banks. But if we step back and go, well, why are they so restrictive on loaning you money or hesitant to loan you money and make you go through all these steps and pay all these fees and all these different things? Well, the reason the lenders don't like to loan money and want you to go through these hoops is the uncertainty of the future value of the asset they're loaning on, right? Your ability to repay it and the value of that asset. So, like, what will the future value of that house be? We're loaning you money. Well, what if real estate plummets? What will the future value be of that car we're loaning you money on? Or if you want to borrow against your gold, what's the future value of gold? No one really knows. There's all that uncertainty. But when we now get into the infinite banking concept and specifically the tool we use, participating whole life, specifically designed for high cash value, the uncertainty is eliminated. Okay. Other assets can go up and down, but we know with certainty this is going to go up in value every single day for the rest of your life. So you can't guarantee the future value of anything else except whole life. We can guarantee the future value, what it's going to be, because we know the cash value is going to equal the death benefit at age 100. Okay. All these whole life policies at age 100, cash value is going to equal death benefit. So the cash value goes up all the time, every day, chasing that death benefit till age 100. It catches it. So the cash value cannot go down. It's guaranteed to go up, assuming you pay the premiums. So if you think about this is incredible. Like, the insurance company is the lender. So the insurance company is loaning you those policy loans. I've got 100,000 in there and I borrow 90,000. The insurance company guarantees the future value of that asset. Think of that. Like, a lender guarantees the money they're lending you money on an asset. And that same lender is also guaranteeing the future value of the asset. So that doesn't happen anywhere else, where the lender guarantees the underlying asset, guarantees the future value of that underlying asset. That is unbelievable. So the lender's not worried about repayment. They know you're going to pay, because if you think of a loan from an insurance company or policy loan, is really a lien against a future death benefit. And every individual that's has a policy, I can say this with certainty, every individual in Canada that has a policy has around a 100% chance of dying someday, right? So the lender's going to be paid at death, and the death is guaranteed. So this is the ultimate place really to store capital. So like if we go back and we look at, okay, we said there's two ways to deploy capital. You can liquidate it or leverage it, okay? We talked about the wealthy want to leverage it so you have more than one asset, or that and asset. But then if we look at the leveraging of properly structured whole life, the lender guarantees the future value of the asset. It's guaranteed to go up. We eliminate all those costs and uncertainty of credit checks and all these fees and all the financial underwriting and all that stuff. All that is eliminated because a lender's guaranteeing the future value of this asset. So all this is eliminated with the infinite banking concept, which just literally is an absolute game changer.
Yeah, no, that was a great rant, Darren. I love that, and I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, like it's a great explanation of why the infinite banking concept and using that high cash value life policy is a perfect place to give you that control and store that capital, right? Which is one of the things that Nelson talked about on that one page. See, I told you there's a lot more on that page than just a little bit of information. So the capitalizing your system with infinite banking is one thing, but he also talked about the implementation of it too, right? So getting it started and wanting to do this. And he talks about a lot about having the need and the desire to want to take control of the banking function in your life, right? You have to want to do it. You can't, this isn't just going to happen because you listen to this podcast today, right? That's a good step, but you have to have the desire to want to take control of your money. And once you've got that desire and you've got that put in place, and we talk about control all the time too, right? So we're completely aligned with Nelson on this one. You want to have that desire to take control of the money. So once you get that established, what are the next steps on the implementation side of things? So what are you going to do to get started on this? So the first thing I think and as he puts it in the book is you have to find an expert. And we talk about that all the time, right? There's a lot of people out there that can be licensed to sell life insurance, or they're financial planners. They do investments very well, and that's all great. But you have to specialize in the infinite banking concept in order to really structure these things properly. So you do want to work with an infinite banking practitioner, someone like us that specializes and does this every day, talks about it every day, right? And learns about it every day. So working with an expert is definitely number one. The next thing that he talks about in the book is educating yourself. Just key, right? This is why he wrote these books. This is why you wrote your books, is taking the time to learn and educate yourself. There are tons of resources out there on infinite banking now, right? We've got a lot of them just on our website. You go to our website, there's going to be webinars there for you. There's our podcast. There's Darren's books, Be the Bank, Infinite Banking for Real Estate Investors. Tons of resources for you to be able to dig in and learn more. And I always talk about why, the very first time we meet with an individual, we're sitting down for an education session. And it's for this exact reason, right? I want to go through it top to bottom, explain it. So, because if you don't understand it, you can't utilize it, which is exactly what Nelson's talking about here. Take the time to learn about it and understand it. Number 3, he says, join a wealth club in here. We don't really have a wealth clubs. Well, I don't know. Maybe we do. I don't know. But I'm usually in a community. So like on Facebook, you got your Facebook communities. But what he's really talking about is, surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. You want to be able to talk with other people that are using infinite banking, that are using this strategy and using it well. Because the more you talk to people, the better ideas that you're going to get on how you can leverage your asset, right? Use the and asset, get out there. We actually have a community on Facebook, Infinite Banking for Real Estate Investors and Business Owners. Great place to go in, join the conversation. surround yourself with others that are doing the same thing as you, right? And then the last thing that he says, which I 100% agree with, is start now, right? Whether you're 50 years old or 55 years old, if you're 30 years old, if you're 25 years old, it doesn't matter. The best time to implement, bottom line, is today, right? The sooner you get started, the better you're going to be. We're talking about uninterrupted compounding here. So compounding tends to do better the longer it's there. Sooner you start, the better. The longer you wait, the longer you penalize yourself for doing that, right? You want to make sure that you're implementing now. So those are, on that page, that this one page, there's a lot on one page, right? He gave some great information. You want to think about, capitalizing, where to store your capital, and then the next steps, and really taking that next step and implementing, right? It's all great if you learn, but if you don't take the next step and putting it into action, then you're not going to take that step forward, right?
Yeah, I love it. Great recap, Christina. I just keep going back to what we've been talking about this whole episode. And if you look at the wealthy, the most important for them is to be in control of their money and the ability to leverage that. Well, if you break that down further, there's no better way than a properly structured participating whole life contract to store your money and leverage your money, because the loan is actually guaranteed by the lender. That is unique. That is why individuals, why corporations, why wealthy people are using the infinite banking concept. Or as Nelson Nash said in his book, if you know what is happening, you will know what to do. So hopefully after this podcast, you know what's happening. You know the importance of storing your capital in a safe, secure place. And you know why we believe the infinite banking concept and the tool participating whole life, high cash value life insurance is the best place to store that capital, to multiply that capital, to grow that capital tax-free. That's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. And if you want more information, check out our website, controlandcompound.com, and you can sign up for an education session with one of our wealth coaches.